All right, I'm going to test these mics to see if you guys can hear me. How does this sound, Tyler? Does this sound pretty good? Does everybody hear us? All right. Outstanding. Stacy is grabbing something real quick, and then we are going to get started. This is fantastic, guys. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope everybody has a seat. We kind of added some more chairs, and I hope y'all like the table set up. That was Kiefer's idea, so y'all had a place to put your wine. Welcome to our fall book talk. There are a lot of new faces tonight, so I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to introduce ourselves. Plus, we have a new member of our panel. Most of y'all know me. I'm Anderson McKean, and I would like to introduce Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Eason.
Is that going to work? Is that working? No, all right, here we go. Here, you can use mine.
Good evening. I'm Laura Eason. I am a retired librarian from Kentucky. I've been here about a year. So it's lovely to be here with you guys tonight.
And then Mary Bradley, you want to? We'll share this one.
Yes, hello. My name is Mary Bradley Knighton. I do a lot of things. If you've met me before, I read a lot, I sing opera, and I teach at South Alabama. And I've got some weird books for you guys tonight.
I'm Stacey Sheehan Wilson, and I have books set in Ireland. Can't wait to share them with you.
All right, we're just going to share. Okay, so it needs to be louder. Gant, can you turn things up for us a little bit? Way louder. Okay, I may do it myself. Okay, so before we get started, I want to make sure that everybody heard. Does everybody have a list? Yes. And we do have order forms up at our table and then our fancy QR code. We really just want to make sure that, thank you for turning that up, whoever just that. We want to make sure that you guys are on our email list because one of the things that we do for all you guys who come to Book Talk, we send out an email about some early access things like VIP receptions for some of our author events before we send it out to the public. So that's why we want to make sure that all you guys who come to Book Talk are on our email list so you can get that information before everybody else. Okay, now I'm nice and loud. Outstanding. Okay, so before we get into our normal recommendations, we have so many fantastic author events that are coming up. We wanted to go through those books that are being featured at those. The first one is actually an event we just had. How many of you guys were able to come to the Melanie Benjamin event for the Windsor Affair? So she was absolutely fantastic. It is a fascinating story. It is a juicy, scandal-filled historical novel about the abdication of Edward VIII and the two women at the center of it, Wallis Simpson and Queen Elizabeth of Windsor. I absolutely love this book. If you watch The Crown, it is so much fun to get into the heads of these women who were basically, pitted against each other. And we were so fortunate to have Melanie here, and we have signed copies of this one. And I just wanted to make sure that if any of you were not able to come, y'all were aware about this book. And then Laura is going to talk about Gabriella Saab, who will be here with us for her book launch of her book, The Survivors Guild, on September the 1st.
So the Survivors Guild is a Titanic story, but it starts with the sinking of the Titanic, and this Lebanese immigrant girl, B, is able to save the life of this aristocratic young woman, Marguerite. And when they are both rescued and they get back to New York City, and they are trying to find their way. B has lost her brother in the sinking of the Titanic, and Marguerite has now refound her fiancé, a very stuffy British lord. And both B and Marguerite want to do things, but society has hemmed them both in. They both find themselves in boxes that society is not going to let them out of. But they're both pretty determined to break the societal norms, and it's a really, really good story.
What's the name of it?
So that's The Survivors Guild by Gabriella Saab, and it comes out on September the 1st because we're having a book launch party for her. For those of you guys who don't know Gabriella, she writes absolutely fantastic historical fiction. She's written The Last Checkmate, the Daughters of Victory, the Star Society, and she is from Mobile. And we always love hosting her for these book launches. Then the next event we have is on September the 22nd for anyone who has read The $80 Champion. So Elizabeth Letts, she writes absolutely fascinating nonfiction, and The Ride of Her Life is another one that is just an absolutely beloved. That is going to be on September the 22nd. All of her books have horses in them in some way, shape, or form. Her new book, which Laura is going to talk just a little bit about, is called Fallen for France. And it's set during World War I, which I particularly love because not a lot of historical fiction is set during World War I. The publisher has also given us access to a very comprehensive book club discussion guide that's online. So if this is something that interests you, if you guys were interested in choosing it for a book club pick, and it was Elizabeth herself put it together, which I thought that was very special for her to put the time in for that. And I'll let Laura tell you about that.
So it is set during World War I. It starts out in Morocco. And it is the story of, yes, this horse, who is a majestic horse, and a young boy who has been apprenticed to his uncle, but really more like sold off as a slave to his uncle at 6 years old. Eventually leaves that, as you'll find out how he leaves that, and becomes sort of the caretaker of this majestic horse. But it's World War I, and all the soldiers rely on horses. So the story moves from Africa into France near the line, and you're introduced to the veterinarian. It's very central to the story because he has to take care of all these horses. And in that same French town where he has got his practice set up to take care of the horses, you'll meet a young French girl. She's been taking care of her disabled brother. And all these and several other people's their stories intersect over the time that the war is going on. So it's really intriguing. I hope y'all like it.
That's great. And that one came out on Tuesday. So we do have copies of that. And if you're interested in going to Elizabeth's event, the same thing what you guys know we do, you buy a book and that's your ticket to the event, and you'll have a reserved seat here in the bookseller for that. And then the next two that we have in September on the 24th is Christy Woodson Harvey, which we're super excited about. We've never had Christy here. She's been really wanting to come to Page and Palette. Her books, this is Falling for Peachtree Bluff, which is in the Peachtree Bluff series. And these are just really just heartwarming family sagas that you're going to get to meet the Murphy crew. And from what I understand of this book, you can read them in order, but you can also start with this one and you learn about the Murphys, you learn about the dynamics between all the different characters. And most people, once they read one in the series, they would then want to go back and find out what happened to them in the previous ones. I love what Mary Kay Andrews has said to describe this one, a heartfelt family saga that readers will unwrap with glee, which sounded very Mary Kay to me. So that one is going to be on September the 24th. And then the last one in September is Madeline Martin, who, again, is another historical fiction author who we have never had and we're super excited about. This one is perfectly timed for kind of leading into October. It's a time of witches, and it's going to be a dual timeline story about two women who were bound by blood and betrayal, and they're basically trying to break the silence across centuries. It's propulsive and a moving portrait of women who were trying to come into their power. And so there's going to be a little bit of history, a little bit of magical realism, and we're super excited to have her. And that is September the 30th. That's really good. And I have not gotten to read that one yet, but I've heard fantastic things about it. And then the last, it's not on this list because I was trying to keep things focused on October, but many of you guys have already read on, I'm trying to keep things focused on September. October 20th, we are super excited that Ariel Lawhon is going to be here. She is the author of The Frozen River, which has sold gajillion copies, and we have all read and loved. And her new book that is coming out, it's called The Pirate Queen, and it is about essentially this absolute badass woman who decided to go against the orders of Queen Elizabeth, and she was essentially she was a pirate. And it is just lyrically written and beautiful, and you feel like you are, on the high seas. And that event is on October the 20th. We are selling tickets for that right now. I'm anticipating this room is not sold out yet, but I'm expecting that it will. We are in that tour was something that we've really been trying to get on because we had such a great event for her when she came for the Frozen River. Ariel Lawhon. You want to say Lawhorn, but it is not. It is Lawhon. Lawhon. Yes.
Already bought a ticket for that. Will we be able to pick the book up like September 8th?
When the book, so anytime you buy a ticket for one of our events, you can pick up your book as soon as the book comes out, and so that book comes out on September the 8th, and but you just have to keep up with your ticket. That's the big thing. Keep up with your ticket. Okay, now we're gonna get started with recommendations, and I'm just gonna ask everybody's forgiveness. I'm going on about day 5 of waking up at between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning because my daughter is currently living in London, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we're having to work out, and so I'm a little sleep deprived. Caffeine is not really doing it, so if I start to ramble, please forgive me. Okay, the first one is several of us have read. So, Big Little Truths by Leanne Moriarty. We have been waiting on this one for quite some time. I love all of her books. This one is the follow-up to Big Little Lies, which some people have read, some people have watched the show. What's really interesting about this one, and this is all in the author's note, she essentially, it's a follow-up to Big Little Lies, the book, but she augmented the role of some of the characters in this book because of the way the show portrayed them. Because they had a bigger role in the show, and she realized that she needed to give them their due. And so she really did kind of pull some of that into this sequel, which I thought was interesting. So as y'all remember, Big Little Lies, for those of you who read it, it focused on preschool gossip and drama among the moms, and there's all sorts of badness and things that evolve from that, which I'm not going to get into because if you haven't read it, I don't want to spoil it. This one essentially grows up with those characters because instead of preschool drama, you are dealing with teenage angst, dealing with aging parents, marital troubles, all the things that these characters are now dealing with in this next phase of life. And I think that this author, especially, she's able to take some very some heavier topics, but she tackles them with wit and candor and humor, and it just makes it for just like a really engaging read. And I've just the kind of thing that you want to go through and you want to highlight the way that she says things. I know that Stacy read it and wants to talk about it as well.
I do. I did highlight a couple things. So you know what a joy it is when someone writes a line that just makes you stop and gasp. So here is one of them. We know these folks, and we might even be these folks. But so just description of character, page 10. Celeste, who was older than Madeline, wore her age like a gorgeous gossamer thin wrap. Madeline, on the other hand, wore hers like a chattering monkey with hairy little limbs wrapped around her neck. Renata was the same age as Celeste, but she refused to wear her age at all. She railed against it like poor customer service. And forgive me, you'll have to bear with me, I do have one more. There's an event in the book that is very cool. And the women cannot get over it, how cool it is. And they keep saying, how did you do it? How did you do it? And the woman who organized it says, ladies, please, just enjoy the magic. And she says, but they were mothers. And they could not enjoy the magic because they were normally the ones in charge of providing it. Read it. You're going to love it.
And when you do, so these right here, like we've got copies of everything that we're talking about tonight, and with these in particular, we do have some that are signed. So if you're interested in that, just kind of pull it and check to see if it has the signed copy sticker on it. Okay, I'm sorry, you are, sorry.
All right, so my first pick is something really fun. It's called Whitechapel Full Moon Society. It is set in 1888 in London and follows this young woman named Caroline who, after the tragic death of her father, she finds herself out of money and she hasn't heard from her brother in a long time. So she's not able to get to him.
Speak up.
Oh, my apologies. Is this better?
There you go.
Alrighty. So she goes to his last known address and finds herself in Whitechapel, kind of the more notorious for bad reasons in history of that of London. So she finds herself in front of this place called the Whitechapel Full Moon Society. It is full of these very strange and eclectic men. She can't fathom why her brother would be around these people. So she's looking for him. She can't find him anywhere, and she procures herself a little bit of a maid through a white lie or two and finds herself in this building among these strange, eclectic men. This is very much a cozy thriller mystery. I enjoyed it so much. There's a slight paranormal aspect to it, very slight. I cannot stress how slight it is, but it makes it all the much more fun. It's very magical, but in a real-ish way. But also around this time, 1888, Whitechapel, Jack the Ripper is on the loose. So not only is her brother missing, several women are missing, and she finds herself in this strange society where there are lots of secrets, but also Jack the Ripper is on the loose. And so it all kind of comes together. I enjoyed it so much. It is just such a fun read, perfect for kind of coming into this fall. If you're just looking for something, a little mystery, a little thrilling, a little edgy, but not super scary, not super intense, this is perfect for that. I think it is great for all ages, honestly, like teenagers and up. Like, I really think it's wonderful.
The next book is All That Is Left of Life by Roberta Recchia. And I cannot tell you how wonderful this book is. It is absolutely wonderful. It's beautifully translated from the Italian. And it's the story of Marissa. And Marissa is hopelessly in love with this young man who they think they're going to open a restaurant one day. And he has gone off to Switzerland to earn more money in a restaurant job. And she finds herself one day pregnant. And she calls him. And he comes secretly to meet her and informs her that he is now seeing the proprietress's daughter, so the owner of the restaurant's daughter, and he are now together. So he has no anything for Marissa now. She returns home and she tells her parents, and there's a lot of dilemma as to what to do, and they say, well, what about this nice young man, Stelvio? He sells bread to her father's store. And he's obviously interested in her. And because he lingers every day, he brings the bread to the store. But she's just not seeing it. And then things change. She has a life-threatening illness. And that is sort of where the story starts, with that tale right there. The story goes on about them building their lives together until one day there is the most horrible, unspeakable tragedy. And they are left to wonder what is left of life at this point. There are some very sad parts to that, but it's overall a very, very uplifting book and just absolutely wonderful. I know Anderson read it as well.
No, I mean, I thought it was absolutely gorgeous, and it is one of those things where I'm always amazed by translations, because as beautiful as it was in English, I mean, it's one of those things where I wish I spoke Italian, because I can only imagine how beautiful it was, and it is a character-driven family story where you feel like that you are wholly invested in these characters from the very beginning, and I think that it really takes a special type of author to be able to pull you in as quickly as Roberta did. So I highly recommend that one as well. And that's out now. Yes, that one. Yeah, that one's out now. Everything we're talking about is out now, and we'll when we shift to upcoming releases, we'll tell you.
Okay, and next I have Peter Santinello's Your Fellow Americans. And what a joy this was to read. Do you remember watching Charles Kuralt doing Sunday morning? Oh, so picture Charles Kuralt. He is not Charles Kuralt, but he has his heart, and I just think his openness to having a conversation with people he doesn't know without an expectation of what the answers might be, what he might find. And I loved it. He goes to Alaska. I felt like I was in Northern Exposure. He goes to the Chesapeake Bay, and I thought, dang, I wouldn't mind going there. And he actually spends some time in the Mississippi Delta and in the Bayou with some people who are living on a houseboat. So it is just delightful, and his whole idea is every place he goes, they are all Americans. We are all Americans. And I just loved his community intent. And it reads beautifully. And I found out from a customer, it's mentioned on the flap, but he has a really crazy popular YouTube channel. And I guess he is currently in Maine. And I can't get there right now, so I plan on looking that up. And so he is a voice to take a peek at. Just so lovely. I promise you'll love his little vignettes of people that you don't know, but by the time he's done with them, you'd like to.
I don't know, how many of you have ever read Patricia Cornwell's books about Kay Scarpetta, the medical examiner? Okay, well, True Crime is Patricia Cornwell's memoir. And even if you've never read a single one of her books, this is well worth your time because it is amazing. You're probably like, oh my gosh, she's a multimillionaire, selling all these books and has such a successful career. You have a new appreciation for what she's been able to do when you learn about her upbringing. So she's got two very unstable parents. First, the father has to go away for a while because he has mental issues. The mother decides to move them from Miami to Montreat, North Carolina, just out of the blue. She picks it. And then she's trying to raise them, but her mental illnesses grow and grow and grow. In the meantime, Patricia and her two brothers are just trying to exist, and it's very difficult. One day, her mother gets so bad that she drives the children up the hill to where Billy Graham lives, and Billy and Ruth Graham, and she tries to give her children to them. Because she somehow, in the depth of her mental illness, she realized that she can't take care of her children. And this scene is repeated again in different ways, and Patricia and her brothers have to go live with other families for a while. I mean, it's one thing after another that you just don't know how they could possibly survive this situation. But Patricia does have teachers who see some promise in her, especially her writing. And they are very gracious in their ways that they've helped not only Patricia but her brothers along the way too. But it is really amazing what she does with the little bit of opportunity that she gets along the way. And even once she's out of college and trying to find her way, all the different jobs she's had and all the different things she think will be it and they're not it, and she keeps writing. It's really very interesting and just gives me a lot of respect for what she was able to do with her life. So especially if you like Patricia Cornwell, it's definitely something you should read.
So my next book is Etna by Paul Yoon. And this was one that my publisher kept telling me about. It is a tiny little book. It can't be, I think it's barely 200 pages. And unfortunately, it is on back order right now because the world has learned about this book, and so everything's on back order. I was hesitant to read it because I typically, I was one of those that was probably scarred when I read Where the Red Fern Grows because I can't do anything. And so when I read that it was about a dog, I kind of immediately shut down. But then the more that I read about it, the more that I saw it, I realized this is a story. It is from the perspective of the dog. You are in his head, and he is basically recruited from the time that he is a puppy, and he is taken and trained to become a war dog. And you're not told exactly what war it is. You can kind of infer that it might be Afghanistan, but you're not really sure. But it is just remarkable how this author crafts conversations with this dog and his observations of the humans around him and what he thinks the humans are thinking, what he thinks the humans should be doing, and then the conversations that he's having with the other dogs. But then there are certain humans that he knows can converse with him, and that to me was the most interesting. But then you end up going on this journey with him, which it's basically he is determined that he wants to get back to the farm where he was originally raised. And so you follow this journey as he encounters other humans and other animals, and the entire time he's trying to get back to the farm where he came from. He uses his military training to protect the people that he loves, and he also knows that he has been broken by the war, and he knows that he needs to find ways to heal himself. It is just this absolutely beautiful story that everything works out in the end, but I just thought it was so clever the way that the author was able to basically portray an animal and the thoughts in all the ways that we've wondered, what is our dog really thinking when we're talking to them? Are they hearing us? But it was very, very powerful, and of course it's war, so this is not a warm fuzzy book, but it was so clever, and I'm sorry we don't have copies for it, but we will have more coming, and that's Etna by Paul Yoon.
All right, so my next pick is very cleverly called Cross My Heart, I Hope You Die. This is a cheesy 1980s, 1990s slasher film in a book. It is such a fun and thrilling read. It was a little gruesome. It was funny. It was self-aware in a very ridiculous way. And it starts off with these three women who all are just in love with the most amazing man. And then they find out it's the same man. So, like very mature, reasonable young women, they decide to get revenge on him. And they find someone to essentially trick him into going into a vacation in a cabin on the mountain. And they say, okay, we're gonna play a little prank on him. There's a snowstorm. We'll trap him there. It'll be fun. It does not go the way that they intended. A little harmless prank did not turn out so harmless. So, now trapped in this snowy mountain, they start to turn on each other. What have you done? Well, it wasn't me. Well, if it wasn't you, who was it? What's going on this mountain? It is absolutely ridiculous in the best way. It is such a fun, silly slasher read. I can't recommend it enough. It is just, you think, sometimes you watch those movies and you go, well, that's ridiculous. Why would anyone ever do that? And the book actually starts off with them watching these movies and going, well, that's stupid. No one would ever make that decision. And then they proceed to make every single terrible, terrible decision and end up in these situations. But it is so good. It is a little, it's not for the squeamish, I will say, but it is in a very fun, campy way. And that's, I cross my heart, I hope you die.
Okay, this next book is Sunlight Finds You by Laura Moriarty, and I absolutely love this book. This is the story of two teenagers. And Nora, unfortunately, loses her mother. And the mother was the light of the family. And so her father does do a little bit of dating, and it's all bad until he meets this one woman, and they do end up getting married. And she decides the best thing for this family to do is to move to Florida. So in 1947, they move to St. Petersburg. And so, the place is not what it is today, obviously in 1947, but a lot of people are starting to migrate to Florida. And so Nora starts high school. She's a sophomore. And she's very bubbly and she's very outgoing. And she spies this rather good-looking junior across the way, and he's immersed in something he's reading. And they're like, oh, her friends are telling him he's pretty standoffish. But Nora goes over and engages him in conversation, so that's the beginning of their relationship. She's very bubbly and outgoing. He's very introverted. And so they start seeing each other, and his parents are very suspicious because Nora comes from a working-class family, and they are very affluent. And they're thinking this is a bad idea, especially his father thinks this is a horrible idea, that Nora's obviously only after their money. So the kids continue to see each other. She brings out the best of him. He's no longer really introverted. Things are going well. And then one day they make a very poor decision, and his parents ban them from ever seeing each other again. And there's a lot of things they tell one and they don't tell the other, or say something to Nora that they don't say to Leonard, or tell Leonard something that Nora doesn't know. There's a lot of subterfuge by his parents, a lot of lies, a lot of deception, leading the two of them to make independently rash decisions, very rash decisions. And then their lives go in very separate ways and not in a good way. And so they're fighting the circumstances they find themselves in, and you just wonder if there is going to be a ray of sunshine happen to them again ever. It's so good. It is really so good. I don't want to tell you everything, so you will find out what happens. But I can't recommend it highly enough. It's super good.
Oh, Mary Bradley's next.
So this is it's upside down, understood. So this is a nonfiction selection. It starts with the late 19th century New England vampire panic that I had no idea that happened. And it starts with a retelling of the exhumation of Mercy Brown. You get into it. So you hear a little bit about this exhumation, how we think this girl may have come back from the dead. We need to go check and see if her corpse is still there and if it's in the state that it should be. So, the author is so witty. He is clever, he is funny. This entire book reads like a series of tales that were just so engrossing and macabre, but they're all selections of history that kind of lead up to why a really not that long ago society would believe that there's a vampire. Why are there vampire panics in New England in the late 19th century? And so it goes all the way back to, I believe, 600 BC. And it starts all of these accounts of medical advancements, talking about electricity, bloodletting, the Brothers Grimm, and how all of these things kind of lead up into society, and these historical accounts that really didn't happen that long ago of trial by blood, where they believed that, I believe 170 years ago is something that happens in here, where they did a trial by blood, which is where you go up to the corpse and it will bleed if the murderer touches it. And it apparently worked. And so it's, how do you get to this point where it happens? And so it is just this wonderful, witty collection of macabre histories, mainly in science, but also in literature and just things that happen around the world and how they all connect together. And it is just such a weird and fascinating read. I loved it so much. I can't recommend it enough. It is just absolutely fascinating. And there's a lot of puns in it, so get ready for a lot of really macabre-styled puns.
That is perfect for October. So I'm so much more wholesome than my colleague Mary B. I have this beautiful book called Make Believe on telling stories to children. But I would like to read Exhumed, so I'm only teasing. This is lovely. It's a little short essay, I guess you'd say. Mac Barnett is a noted children's author, Caldecott, all the awards. And what I love about it is I do enjoy a good nerdy, intellectual, clever, funny something. So this is definitely not for everybody. I will say. But if you are a person who enjoys words, and I mean really enjoys jumping in to the English language, it's beautifully written. It's something that might show up in the New Yorker or something like that. It is definitely just an intellectual sojourn, but it's also very funny because he's a children's author. So he keeps these little footnotes going with his little asides and commentaries, and it's truly an exploration of art. What are we doing when we're reading to kids? We say we want to expose them to beautiful books and beautiful art, but his point is that often it's pedantic, and we want to tell them how to do things, and everything should have a moral. And his point is, well, does it really? And isn't that the whole point of imagination? So it's a great debate that he actually has with himself. As he's talking back and forth about what is children's literature and the art of that, without in any way putting himself on a pedestal. So it's a great book. It reminded me a bit of Lemony Snicket's Poison for Breakfast. So I had to put it out here, and why I grabbed it. With the anniversary of Winnie the Pooh and the 100 Acre Woods being the 100th anniversary, I felt like I owed it to my childhood to read this, and I do not regret it. And that is a great plug for our story time, and I can't remember when it is.
So if you have children or grandchildren, on Saturday, September the 12th, we are going to have a special story time. It's going to be in here. And we're going to have games and activities and treats, and Paula, and Laura are just so fabulous with our story times. But it is going to be a story time for Winnie the Pooh in celebration of the 100th anniversary. So definitely let people know, because we're super excited about that, and it's going to be a really special Saturday. So that's Saturday, September the 12th.
And before you leave the store, please make a point of going through the children's section. Paula recreated the 100 Acre Wood with the tree, and it is just beautiful. So it's well worth taking a peek.
Okay, so now so those were books that are out now, and now we're going to move into our upcoming releases. And I got my hands on this advanced reader copy months and months and months ago, and I squealed because Ask Again Yes, which is by this author, this is Whale Harbor by Mary Beth Keane. And Ask Again Yes was the first novel of hers that I read, and it just was absolutely remarkable. She does family dramas like no one else, and this one was particularly interesting because it is set in Ireland, and it follows an Irish family. They have it's 11 brothers, and they are in this very remote, very impoverished part of Ireland. And it's an immigrant story in that it is the story of those brothers and their moving to the United States to a world that is completely different than what they know. I mean, they don't have. I mean, they barely have running water in where they are, and then all of a sudden they are thrust into this modern world, the United States, and so it takes you into each of their individual experiences in that journey. And as you can imagine, some of them thrive, and some of them do not. Some of them are okay being on their own, and some of them, I mean, they're a family of 11. I mean, it is a radical change for them to not have that tight knit group that they've had for their entire lives. The writing is absolutely spectacular. The struggles that these boys have, in that they have that constant, that allegiance to home, but also knowing that this opportunity that's in front of them that they need to take advantage of, and kind of struggling with that, with the guilt that they have for what's left behind. It is just beautifully written, and it really does focus on just love and loss, and just the endearing bonds of family. And I cannot wait for to be able to sell it to you guys. It's coming. It says it's coming in that's my water, and that was okay. I did have the dates on here. I think it's going to be the end of September is when this one comes out. On sale, yes, it is. So September the 29th. Cannot recommend this one enough.
Yes, and I did not realize that Anderson had read it, and I had typed up a blurb, and when we were putting in the shared document, I'm like, oh. So I didn't read what Anderson said. I wanted to hear that from her. And what I took away is everything Anderson's saying too, but you know, when you come from such a rural place, they actually don't go to New York, they go to Montana and start working on a ranch. And the way it's set up is essentially when one brother marries and gets out of that ranch, then the next brother goes. And nobody talks about it. So, you know, as a mom of 2 college students, where we're always talking about, you know, what are your future plans? They didn't have future plans. Their parents had future plans for them. And that's how that happened. And several of the boys leave within 24 hours. They don't even know they're going. So, and you understand it's an opportunity. So what I took away from it is I know that so many of us are immigrants from wherever we might be coming from, but we know the immigrant experience. But when you're reading it and really feeling it, it's like, golly, how would I feel if I was leaving Fairhope tomorrow? And that's it. And we're not, I don't have email or a text. You're done. And then the other part that I thought was very interesting, kind of reminded me of Good People, if anybody has read that one yet. How hard they're working, and then by the second generation, you know, they're bringing their kids back to their rural home, and those kids can't even believe it. And the work ethic is so different. I mean, you know, so I thought, wow, so much to think about, and as Anderson said, so beautifully written. So it is just well worth the Explorer, and all of those men. My gosh, that's a lot of guys. Oh, and they're great communicators, those guys. Wow. Yeah, they're really good about telling each other how they feel. So it is so good. Enjoy it, and we get to give one away, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right, Mary B., you grab it.
Oh, do we have? I don't have the list. We need to go get the list.
I've got the list.
Oh, you have the list.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy.
Okay, 36. Nate Knutson. Perfect, Nate. It's a guidebook.
This next book, you may be familiar with this story, but the book is called The Wiregrass, A Tale of Murder and Retribution in the Deep South by Matt Kessler. He is a journalist. And back in 1999 in the Wiregrass area of Alabama, 2 young girls are killed. And I'd read about a fourth of this book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know the story. So I had to look it up, and I remember seeing this story on the news where these 2 girls were missing, and they're they're looking all over. They find one of the girls' cars, and they're still looking, and nobody thinks to look in the trunk. Both girls are in the trunk. And this is seems to be a big mystery as to what has happened. And time goes by, and current events are interspersed with where he has tracked down all kinds of information, the evidence. He's interviewed people. He himself, he thought he would never come back to Alabama, came back to Alabama and lived in the area to research this story. I mean, I couldn't put it down. I read it from beginning to end, and all true story. And he tells you at the very beginning, he says, I'm not going to tell you what I think has happened until the end. And he is true to his word. And at the very, very end, he lets you know what his opinion is after everything. They do have somebody in jail, but you will see in this little town, Ozark, Alabama, that was quite eye-opening to me. I guess I'm pretty sheltered over the years, and the things that go on in that little town are just jaw-dropping. And so you can draw your own conclusions too at the end, but it's really a gripping story, and all kinds of people in the town are involved, know something, saw something, or don't say something of what they saw. So really, it's a gripping story, and he is coming to Page and Palette to talk about the book here. It's going to be released. Let me put my glasses on.
So the book is released on October the 6th.
October the 6th, the book comes out, and then he is coming on the 14th. So I'm really looking forward to hearing him talk about the research and how he got people who don't want to talk to him. So anyway, I know it's a tragic story all the way around, but how he pieces it together is very interesting, and I did like reading it very much.
It reads. It's like it's that best type of true crime. I mean, it reads almost like a thriller because it continues. It's propulsive, and then you're also as he kind of unravels this story, you're shocked that how these things could have possibly occurred in just someplace that's not very far from us. We are going to give that one away. Are we in church? I hear bells.
Betty, that's for you.
I got it.
And is it true that Corey Young is in conversation? So our own Corey Young will be in conversation with him, and that will be a terrific event.
Thank you, ladies. You're welcome.
All right, I don't have a physical copy to show up here. Spoiler alert, it's not wholesome, but it is excellent. It is probably one of my favorite books that I have read this year, if not in the past few years. So this is In the Woods They Wait by Carrie Lee South. This is about a girl and her younger brother. They're both teenagers. I think their ages are 13 and 16. They go on a hike. They're with their parents in Devil's Den National Park in Arizona. And the little boy goes missing. The sister holds a secret of events that happened that day that she does not let anyone else know, and she plans on taking to the grave. This timeline follows between the events of that day and going on forward and flashing forward 15 years where she is now a park ranger specializing in search and rescue in that exact park, still looking for her brother as well as helping these other people. She has a complete success rate until one day a little girl goes missing, and it keeps going on, and it is in a very eerily similar way to how her brother went missing. And so it is following her not only grieving and dealing with the very complicated feelings of losing her brother and also finding this little girl. There's a lot of pulling in nature, almost used as its own character, and it is some of the most chilling writing I have ever read. It is not in a scary way, but it is chilling. The nature is unforgiving, unmerciful, but it is very beautifully and excellently written. This is for fans of The God of the Woods or Sharp Objects, anything like that, where it is that chilling kind of read. It is like a thriller. There's like a bit of a mystery aspect, but it is more so about this suspense. What is going on? And I really, really liked this because it pulls a lot of folklore from this like Appalachian cryptid kind of folklore. And I've read a lot of weird books. And oh yeah, oh yeah, I got more too. And I've read a lot of different books that pull from these folklores and things like that. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of them kind of disappoint me in how it's handled. This is probably the best rendition of how that folklore is handled. I loved every second of it. I thought the ending was perfect. I could not have imagined a better ending. And this is probably my most recommended read of this. It is just fantastic. You will be hooked from the very beginning. I read it in a single day. I woke up, started at 11, and finished it around 6. And I had lunch in between. So I could still eat after it. Oh, and that comes out September 22nd.
Okay, so the next up is the Oxford Guide to Scandal and Lies by Kate Westerberry. And this is just a bit of fun. It is a plummy English espionage thriller written at the start of the Cold War. And I just felt like I haven't read something like this in a while. So it's all, let me think, how did I describe it? I sort of liked my first, the British restraint. It's full of British restraint. And this young man has been a soldier and fought in World War II, and now he's just trying to be a student. And he does not have means and is working 27 jobs to be able to be in school. And a woman who captures his attention, but more of his irritation, is a socialite that he ends up. They get hooked up together to be a super sleuthing team. So it was fun. I haven't been to Oxford, so if you want to take I'm guessing this is coming out in hardcover? Okay, so for $32, if you'd like to go to England and go to Oxford, this was cool. And it goes through the campus quite thoroughly. I suspect that she's very familiar with it. So it was fun, and I have 2 copies to give away. Okay, Debbie Haley and Martha Glenn. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Yep, here we go.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so this was probably one of my most highly anticipated reads of the fall. Okay, just to make you feel better, this is what it is actually going to look like, right? So it's not quite as doorstop. This is kind of this is the very early reader copy that we received. When Tyler and I went to Winter Institute, there is a picture of me looking like I'm in a mosh pit because I am all the people like me that are trying to get advanced reader copies to take home are swarming this table to try and get their hands on this. I'm lucky I didn't have a concussion because you can imagine, like, there's all these people, you're grabbing this book, everybody's trying to get out, and then, I mean, it weighs a lot. So, but when you buy it, it's going to be more like this. So a lot more civilized. So this is American Hagwon by Min Jin Lee. So if anyone read Pachenko, which is just this absolutely glorious story that, I mean, Pachenko has probably been out. I mean, I feel like I probably read it well over 20 years ago. And it is just this multi-generational saga about a Korean family. And this is more modern in that she really takes you into the dynamics of the Hagwon. And the Hagwon it's basically what the Koreans look to tutor their children to ensure that they can get into the most elite universities possible. And so it spans these generations of these families in trying to establish these Hagwons because the ultimate, the only thing that they are striving for is the Harvard, the Yale, all of those, the value that they place on elite education. I did not realize just how much of these families were investing that was the only option for their children. And so it takes you through these multiple families and the way that they themselves are trying to take advantage of that, but then they realize that they themselves are skilled enough that they can create these hagwons themselves and create a business out of it. And it is just, you would think that a book this big would be a chore to read, but you become so invested in the struggles that these you meet them as children are facing because of the expectations that their families are placing on them. And there are so many opportunities that are put in front of them, but because of the loyalty to family. And I think that is what was truly the most impactful for me, is that there's one young woman in particular that she continually over and over and over again turned down opportunities because it would mean leaving her family, and she knew that they depended on her. And I think that just is something that was persistent throughout the novel, is just the bonds of family and the value that they placed on education to an extreme. It is beautifully written. I mean, Min Jin Lee, Pachinko is one of those books, if you've not read it, it's one that when you read it, you will not forget it. And I feel like I had very high expectations for American Hagwon. The publishing world has been talking about this for quite some time because it has been her first book since Pachinko, and it was worth the wait. And we've got two to give away, and so y'all can fight over the heavy one.
Okay, Jennifer Deek. Oh, sorry, Jennifer Deek and 55. And Ashley Horton.
Where's Ashley? Over here. There you go. You don't mind a big buck. I know you don't.
She's not scared. Okay, so my last book of the evening is Malcolm Gladwell, The American Way of Killing. And Anderson, did you elbow somebody for this one for me too? Yes, I think so. So Anderson had to throw some elbows and take a few people out to get this for me. And I was on my way to Colorado. So all I said was, woohoo, Malcolm Gladwell. And I threw it in my suitcase. And that was a carry-on, the way you fly anymore. So this really took up some coveted space. So when I get to Colorado, which is where I'm from, and I taught, I was like, woohoo, what? Oh, no. And I was like, Malcolm Gladwell. So I thought, oh, man. And actually, I have to be honest, even talking with you, I can feel my heart accelerating. I'm getting sweaty palms. I know that gun violence is something that affects everybody. But I was teaching when Columbine happened. Columbine is my footprint. Green Mountain High School is my footprint. So I know what was happening. My mom thought I was in Columbine, not Columbia, where I taught. So there's that. And then fast forward, there was another shooting in Bailey right after I became a teacher. And I thought, okay, great. Well, I have to make a decision to orphan my children or protect my students. Then there was the Aurora movie theater shooting where I had students in the theater, and I had former students who were the medical team. And then one day here I saw my King Soopers in Boulder was getting shot up when I went to school at CU. So I know everybody has. You don't have to even have a personal experience to have an opinion about this, but I didn't know if I had the courage to actually read this book in Colorado. So I did, though. I will tell you I did. And what I will say is it's Malcolm Gladwell. So trust him a little. And what he did is knock me on my arse about his conversation about guns and gun violence in the United States. And he's not American. So as an outsider, his position on it, and he makes a pretty powerful assertion that we're fighting about the wrong things about it anyway. The conversation's not what we should be talking about. The things that we keep talking about are not the things to talk about. And he reminded me of my wonderful pal, Padraig Ó Tuama, who I do not know, but he is a beautiful Irish poet. And he worked in Ireland for the reconciliation of Northern Ireland. And he said that before you can solve the argument, you have to figure out what you're actually fighting about. And I thought, oh, okay, I get it. And that's what Malcolm Gladwell is talking about this. So he handles it kindly, and believe it or not, even on vacation, I couldn't quit reading it because he's just compelling. And the way he talks, just to give you an example, he said, we look at statistics, and you drive an SUV because SUVs are safer, right? All the records show SUVs are safer. You're in a bigger car. If you're in an accident, you are more likely to survive that accident, right? That makes sense. But then he said, what we don't have is information on the smaller cars, the sports cars, who are more agile, who stop quicker, who can avoid the accident. And I went, wow. So if you just think of any, all the things we think we know, I'm getting very comfortable as I'm getting older that anything I think I know, I really don't have a lot of confidence that I do anymore, because there are just so many ways to see something. So I won't lie, it's not exactly an easy topic. And boy, it took me like 4 hours to write my little blurb. I didn't want to sound sanctimonious, and I didn't want to sound loose about it, but it is, I think you should read it. It was a great conversation, and it wasn't, once I had the courage to crack the cover, it's Malcolm Gladwell. And I was so glad I read it, and it really did help me understand the situation differently. And that's probably what we need to do since we're really getting somewhere on it at the moment, right? So I've got one to give away. Who is the lucky reader? We should maybe say, who's the one person in the room who wants to read this book? Besides Stacy.
No, there is a little.
Okay, it is Malcolm Gladwell. I think you'll be okay. Brandy English. Bernice. Brandy. No, Brandy. Yes, it's Brandy. I thought I read it wrong. Brandy, it's you. Right. It's you, Brandy. Yeah.
I'm all tangled up. Oh, hand that to her. Keep it behind you. Oh, it's my turn. Okay. The last book, save the very, very best for last, people. How many of you have read Lessons in Chemistry? Okay, this is Bonnie Garmus's new book, Peck and Peck. It will not disappoint. The main character in the book is a boy named Batter Gray, and you'll learn how Batter got his name as you read it. But Batter, even as a tiny child, loves poetry. And he reads, even at a young age, just these very intellectual poets. And this is what he's fixated on. And when it comes to career day in elementary school, you know, what do you want to be, blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, he says he wants to be a poet. He doesn't want to be a poet. I'll take that back. He wants to be a poetry reader. And because he, even at that young age, has an ear for good poetry. So the teacher takes him aside afterwards and like, you're going to need a second job because no one is going to make their living as a poetry reader. And his parents, they are great characters. All these characters in here are warm characters, just like in Lessons in Chemistry. And his parents, bless their heart, they're like encouraging but yet hopeful. That maybe this will change. And his father's a history teacher, and his mother is a type artist. She deals in fonts. And so it's a different kind of family, and her mother reminds me a lot of the main character in Lessons in Chemistry. She's very charming, has a lot of interesting stories that really make a point eventually when you get around to what does all that mean. So Batters just manages to get out of high school. And his parents don't think he applies to lots of places at their insistence. And miraculously, he does get into a really great school. And he ends up with a roommate who is one of these that glides effortlessly through college. And Batter is like walking in molasses. He meets with his advisor all the time. He must try out 20 different college majors. He's not good at anything but reading poetry. And so he does have some success of all things in accounting, which seems very opposite to poetry. But he does get out of college, and just his roommate has already made plans for the both of them, and they're both going to go to law school, is what he said. But then Batter decides, maybe not. So rashly, he just up and decides, well, I'm moving to New York, and makes it sound really great for his parents. It's not, and he takes a series of very menial jobs. And one day, someone gives him like a flyer for a special event. So he takes the flyer and he wanders around New York City, and he comes to Peck and Peck. And he knows Peck and Peck because of a librarian. Yay, librarians. And has exposed him to this wonderful poetry journal, Peck and Peck. And it's very rare. It's very expensive to produce. Libraries don't give very many copies of it. And there it is. There's the Peck and Peck building right there in front of him. And he overhears a conversation and thinks, well, maybe there's a job opening. And he tries to figure out how to, get in there and everything. But it is a magical story. It really is. It's very heartwarming. Poor Batter, he goes through it. He goes through it, and he goes through it, and he goes through it. And his parents make an appearance in New York City. But it's just an absolutely wonderful story. I had to read it cover to cover. Well, actually, like all of them. But it's really, really a super great story. It comes out October 12th? Yep. October 12th. And again, if you're fans of Lessons in Chemistry, you will not be disappointed in Peck and Peck. It's really outstanding. We're giving it away.
Carolyn Hupp. Hoop. H-U-P-P.
And then I've just got two more that I'm going to give away. Tyler read this one and loved it. It's going to be kind of just like a fun literary fiction. I started it, and if I remember correctly, it's kind of like it's set in like it's about like two authors that are kind of or an author and a critic, and it's set in that publishing world, and I really liked what I sampled of it, and so that's Bad Words, and I'm not even going to try to say this guy's name.
Emily Backstrom.
Emily Backstrom. Where's Emily? Is Emily still here? Oh, yay. Okay. And then the other one that we have to give away is The Brightness by Chad Harbach. And I did read this one. I also loved it. He wrote The Art of Fielding. And if anybody read The Art of Fielding, this is his new one. And again, it's not going to be this big when it comes out, like in the real deal. But it is. It's chunky. But The Art of Fielding, if any of you read it, was kind of a book that had to do with baseball. It was so much more than baseball. This one is, it's just a character-driven story about some of those characters in that book, but you do not have to read Art of Fielding to read it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And we've got one to give away.
Okay, and Elizabeth Tibbet.
Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. And then I just put at the end, I just kind of wanted to just remind you guys, and I've kind of featured some of those on here. And I will, since we're kind of tired crowded here, I'm going to roll this into the main part of the store. So if y'all want to get any of these, just to kind of some of the books that were our favorites from the last list. Did any of you guys read any of the ones we talked about last? So Lake Effect was one that I know that both Laura and I loved. And then Honeysuckle, which is just this absolutely fantastic kind of gothic retelling of Blodeuwedd. Is that right? Blodeuwedd, which is a wealth myth, and that one I just absolutely devoured. The Burning Side, which is another. Did anybody read The Burning Side? Which I actually enjoyed as much as The Bright Years, which was a tall because I thought The Bright Years was fantastic. London Falling, which is absolutely. I mean, if you like nonfiction, you've got to read London Falling or anything by Patrick Radden O'Keefe. Ungodly Rich was one that Mary B and I both loved. It's basically Percy Jackson for grown-ups. It's Greek gods are living among us and they're behaving badly. It's so much fun. How many of you came to Sherry LaPena's Getting Away with Murder? That was just a super fun thriller where filled with very dislikable characters. And true to form, the way that she writes her books is that she doesn't decide who the bad guy's going to be until about 3/4 of the way through. And it's definitely evident in that one. And then The Cove, which is another one that Stacy loved, a really good atmospheric mystery. So thank y'all so much for coming. Again, we do have the order forms. If you buy or order things with us tonight from this list, you will get 10% off. The only exception to that is that we're not doing 10% off if it's for an author event because those are ticketed and that just gets really complicated. But 10% off of any of these books that you buy with us tonight, or if you pre-order it for ones that are coming out soon. Thank you, guys.